So hello and welcome everyone to this new video in all about football, and today we are going to discuss about a league which is considered as second best as compared to Premier League. Of course, it is La Liga. Well, we all know the new season is about to begin from the 15th of August, but we do want to know the history behind La Liga and how exactly was the birth of La Liga, how exactly La Liga came to the spotlight. Well, in this video, we will discuss about the history of La Liga and how teams gradually grew over the years in this league. So, without any further ado, let's dive deep into it. So, if we talk about La Liga, the real name, the full name is Campeonato Nacional de Liga de Primera, and after EPL, it is the most successful league in the world. It has the most fan following, of course, not the most, below Premier League, and it has great viewership as well. And we all know the two best teams in the world belong to this league, FC Barcelona and of course the Kings of Europe, Real Madrid. Well, if we talk about the birth of La Liga, it all started in the 1900s when local teams played and the fans supported them. So there used to be local teams and local fans used to support their own teams, and some teams were Catalonia, Blaugrana, which is now FC Barcelona, Sky Football in the Spanish capital, which eventually broke into Real Madrid. Well, if we talk about the very first football competition in Spain, it was in 1903 and it was known as the King's Cup, which is famously known as the Copa del Rey now. Well, if we talk about the Copa del Rey, it was to honor King Alfonso XIII and it is still being followed. The Copa del Rey is still being played and is considered one of the finest tournaments in Spain, and that is why teams still want to win that tournament because it is one of the oldest tournaments in the history of Spanish football. Well, until 1928, it was the King's Cup, that is the Copa del Rey, that used to be played, and these matches were on weekends. So only weekends were specific for these kind of matches. So till 1928, it was the King's Cup that Spanish fan used to look forward to. Now, after that, it was Jose Maria Aca who came with the idea of a national league, and that is when the discussion started. Well, there were arguments as to exactly how many teams will participate in this league format, and of course, since there were many local teams, so it was eventually decided that only 10 teams will participate in the first La Liga season. And the 10 teams chosen were Barcelona, Real Sociedad, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Athletic Club, Europa, Espanyol, Arenas, Real Union, and Racing de Santander. Now, the biggest question was that even if this league starts, will it be able to match the English league's aura? Will it be able to match the same numbers that the English league was bringing in, the same number of fans? And with that risk, the league started. So the first season of La Liga began on 10th of February 1929. And of course, it was FC Barcelona that won the first league title, and of course, their legacy began. But next year, it was Athletic Bilbao. So mind you, Athletic Bilbao were a really great team before the Spanish Civil War. We will get there, back to it in the upcoming minutes. But just to let you know that Athletic Bilbao was one of the great teams in Spanish football. So of course, next year Athletic Bilbao won the title. Before and then after that, it was Real Madrid in 1932. Well, if we talk about the biggest win margin in La Liga history till date, look away Barcelona fans, because it was Athletic Bilbao who crushed Barcelona on 8 February 1931, where they won the match by 12 goals to 1. And that is a stain on Barcelona's history. Of course, people won't know it, but it is the truth. So Barcelona suffered one of the greatest defeats, and till date, it is the biggest defeat in La Liga history, 12 goals to 1. And in 1934, Athletic Bilbao won La Liga once again. In 1935, of course, there was a bit of a shuffle, as it was Real Betis who won it for the first time and the only time in their history. But in 1936, the Spanish Civil War started and the league started losing its value in a bit. Well, there were league matches suspended. Now, question arises: what exactly happened during the Spanish Civil War and how teams suffered because of the Spanish Civil War? But if we are going to talk about two specific teams. First is Real Oviedo. Well, if I speak about the reports, unfortunately, the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War in 1936 had a profound impact on Real Oviedo, as many of its players were called to serve in the conflict. The club faced significant challenges during this period, with matches being suspended and resources scarce. Star player Langara emigrated to South America, while other key players joined different clubs. As a result, Real Oviedo struggled to maintain its momentum and was forced to disband temporarily. The outbreak of the Spanish Civil War disrupted the team. When football resumed in 1939, Oviedo couldn't play the 1939-1940 season because their football stadium, their pitch, had been used as an ammunition drop during the conflict. Well, Oviedo was one of the clubs. The second club was Athletic Club, because it was in the Basque region and it had to be on the forefront to lead the conflict. It did take a hit. The Basque region was on the front line in the fight against Franco, and as a consequence, most Bilbao players had either joined up to fight or fled to nearby France. With few players and a competition in southern Spain necessitating a route to nationalist territory, taking part was never an option. The Mediterranean League and the Free Spain Cup would miss Spain's greatest team. Now, if we talk about the Mediterranean League and the Free Spain Cup lead, well, these leagues were formed during the Spanish Civil War. Well, of course, teams like FC Barcelona, Valencia weren't affected that much from the Civil War. And in 1937, it was the beginning, and Republicarians of Spain formed La Liga del Mediterráneo, the Mediterranean League, and La Copa de la España Libre, the Free Spain Cup, as the national league was suspended, that is La Liga. Well, Athletic Bilbao did suffer, but these teams knew how to bounce back, and they relied heavily on young talents like Jose Luis Panizo, Venancio Perez, and they also had the La Liga top scorer Telmo Zarra, one of the La Liga top scorers. We all know that Lionel Messi broke his record in 2015, the most goals scored for a single club, and Telmo Zarra was one of the players Athletic Club had at that time, and they won the La Liga title back in 1943. So they eventually suffered because of the Spanish Civil War, but not great of that suffering. They did bounce back, and they bounced back in style. And the effects of the Civil War weakens Athletic socially, economically, and on the pitch. The club rebuilds and places its trust in youth. Led by a historic frontline, as I mentioned, the youngsters from the base of the first side to be permanently awarded the league trophy. And then they also won a third Copa del Rey. But their success was short-lived, as FC Barcelona started to grow in that period. Because of the Mediterranean League and the Free Spain Cup League, they were playing Barcelona, and that is when Josep Samitier returned to Spain in 1944 and he took charge of Barcelona. His homecoming was of course celebrated, and he did manage to win Barcelona's second ever La Liga. So after 1929, in 1944, Barcelona won their second La Liga. So in that span, Barcelona weren't doing that great, but Josep Samitier made sure that they win their second league title, and eventually they were once again in the limelight. Barca definitely entered its golden era, first golden era, as they won La Liga back-to-back in 1951 and 1952. And just when Barcelona thought that they had conquered the league, Real Madrid, as always, bought star players. Well, some of their star players had Di Stéfano, Raymond Kopa, Puskas, and Francisco Gento. And they made Madrid unbeatable in the 1950s. And that is when Real Madrid and Barcelona rivalry became fierce, and that term El Clásico came to the use. Well, it was used earlier as well, but that term came into the limelight in that period, in the 1950s. And mind you, in 1950, both Barcelona and Real Madrid won the league title 4 times each. So you knew that the dominance started and that rivalry began in 1950. In 1955, La Liga came to the world's limelight because Real Madrid defeated dreams to clinch the European Cup trophy. Well, as people thought that it is the English league that is the most powerful league in the world. But when Real Madrid defeated Reims in the European Cup trophy, that is when people thought that Spanish league also have great teams. Well, if we talk about Madrid's dominance in La Liga after that, because they had won the European Cup and they regularly won it for a couple of years, they had the dominance in La Liga as well. Talking about La Liga from 1955 to 1970, Real Madrid won 10 La Liga titles in that period, and they won it 5 times in a row from 1961 to 1965. But coming to the 1970 to 1990, of course, Barcelona's dominance was stopped as new teams also started to win it. Even though Real Madrid dominated, teams like Atletico Madrid, Valencia, Real Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao again came to the limelight. But the main question was, what happened to FC Barcelona, who used to dominate alongside Real Madrid, La Liga at one point of time? And when this question were doubting the FC Barcelona surroundings and people thought that FC Barcelona might not be able to bounce back, that is when FC Barcelona brought their greatest manager till date. Maybe you would argue that it would be Pep Guardiola, but Pep Guardiola himself is a student of this coach, and you all know whom I am talking about. It is Johan Cruyff, and Johan Cruyff joined Barcelona in 1988, and he was the coach in that period, and he built a team of global players. He brought players like Koeman, Romario, Pep Guardiola, Stoichkov, and the dream team was formed. And boy, did they deliver? Of course they did. They won 4 La Liga titles during Cruyff's management, and along with that, he brought a new revolution to football, and that was the total football, the tiki-taka. And it was Johan Cruyff who developed it at Barcelona, and Barcelona won their first European Cup as well in that period. Well, he did help Barcelona win 11 trophies in 8 years, and after that, it is the La Liga now. That is the contemporary world of La Liga, the 2000s. Well, of course, in that year, it was Deportivo who won the league in 2000. Valencia, Atletico Madrid did manage to win, but it was all about Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, because both of these teams started signing world-class players. As we talk about Real Madrid, they brought in Raul, Kaká, Beckham, Higuain, Carlos, Cannavaro. And if we talk about Barcelona, they brought in Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Rivaldo, homegrown talents like Iniesta, Xavi from the La Masia Academy. And by the end of the 2000s, it was Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo who started building their rivalry, their domination in the league. And both the teams had star players. And of course, that phase when Pep Guardiola became Barcelona's coach and Mourinho came in as Real Madrid coach, that Guardiola-Mourinho era, where fights used to happen and El Clasico were just like movies. And that is still the greatest period of El Clasico, of course, because being a Barcelona fan from the 2000, I know the history, I've seen those matches, and it was fierce. Even though their competition that happened now, the El Clasico that happened now, it is nowhere to the level that Pep Guardiola versus Mourinho era had. But if we talk about Real Madrid and Barcelona, it was all Barcelona and Real Madrid. Sometimes Atletico used to win once or twice, but in this 2000, 2010, 2020, it has all been Real Madrid and Barcelona in La Liga. And not just in La Liga, the teams have dominated in the Champions League as well. That is the European Cup, which was transformed into the Champions League. They transformed, and Real Madrid has won 15, Barcelona 5. Of course, these teams have been phenomenal. But talking about La Liga, till date, Real Madrid has the most titles, that is 36 league titles. Barcelona has 28 league titles. Athletic Club has 8. Atletico Madrid has 11. Valencia has 6. 2 for Real Sociedad and 1 for Betis, Sevilla and Deportivo each. So this was the history of La Liga. This was the history of the dominance of La Liga and how it became one of the finest leagues in the world. And now teams from Europe, especially English teams, they fear these Barcelona and Real Madrid because they have a game plan, they have a different strategy, and they know how to win. And they have shown their dominance, and La Liga has definitely shown their dominance So this was all about the history of La Liga. What do you think of the same? Do let me know in the comment section. And who do you think will win the La Liga in the 2025-26 season? Do let me know in the comment section. And if you like this video, if you like the fact about La Liga, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and make sure you like and comment. Till then, take care. This is Atavaris Varsi from All About Football signing off. Thank you.